Smile, yes, smile. Hey, smile for me, Jamaica. Never you cry, here am I. Girl, I'm here for you, Jamaica. What must I try? Oh, my. And that she asked me, and this I want me say. A sweet, sweet chronic, you give them. The ones that peep and a rhythm. And you give them back with a different stepping. And you give them bold, nobody can run them in. Oh, but see ya, them must see things say you're out of ideas. You give them art and sweet literature. You're gonna make the world see the better picture. I said no worry yourself, mama. Chronic is here to your head, mama. Hey, I said no worry yourself, mommy. One thing me I beg of you. And I said smile, yeah, smile, oh. Smile for me, Jamaica. And I said smile, yeah, smile, smile for me, Jamaica. Never you cry, here am I, whoa, for me, Jamaica. And I said smile, boy,
Hey, a very good morning to the Blackwood Fire family. Karibuni sana, that is a Karibuni sana to the Calmie African Diary Show. It is a beautiful Monday. Let me just get this. It is a beautiful Monday. And of course, that was a smile for me, Jamaica, by the one and only Chronics. I hope that everyone is doing okay. But even before I get to lament about Monday, I believe everyone is doing okay. And a karibuni sana to the Calmie African Diary Show on Black Hot Fire Network, which is media for the 21st century. And of course, feel free to interact with me. That is on that is on the live chat here on the Calmie African Diary Show. And also, you can proceed and log in at www.blackhotfirenetwork.com. And of course, you can take a look at some of the episodes you might have missed here on that is on the shows that have been, of course, being aired here on the Black Hot Fire Network. We do have the Calmie African Diary Show. We do have the Express Show. We do have the Swahili classes. We do have the African Today Show. We do have Voices, that is Voices from the Motherland. Actually, the episode that you might have missed, they are a lot, and of course, they are educative. And still, when you get to log in at www.blackhotfirenetwork.com, you can take a look at some of the blogs which are lined up for you still. Oh, that is when you get to log in on the website. And still there, you can, of course, donate to support the network. But nevertheless, karibuni sana to the Calmie African Diary Show. It is on a beautiful Monday. Yes, I just have to say it's beautiful. But did I say that I kept begging myself to be out of the bed? I know if you are, that is coming from different parts of Africa, you can get to ascertain that the weather isn't that good. But of course, you can tell us the situation in your country. I have been begging myself because I'm like, end month is here and ain't nobody, of course, going to do my bills. I need to wake up and, of course, go out there and do my bills. It has actually been raining for most parts of the day. The weather isn't that good. And in 1 minute, it's actually right now I haven't witnessed any type of warmth. I've been freezing all my way here, but that is the weather. The weather, okay, let me say the weather forecast didn't actually highlight on how today was gonna be, but nevertheless, we can't complain about the weather because this is also a conducive, that is, environment for the farmers out there to go out there and farm. But just that aside, that is the issue with the weather aside. Let's take a look at the topic of the day. The topic of the day is all about, of course, karma colonialism. Actually, this is a very interesting topic, and that is what we will be venturing in. That is a karma colonialism here on the Calmie African Diary Show. But of course, before that, because I know a majority of you are maybe still in bed, or some of you are already up preparing to go to work, remember to stay positive. Keep, of course, keep, of course, motivating yourself, because we only have a few more months. That is 2 more months to the end of the 2020. So motivate yourself, even if for some of the goals, when the year starts, everyone is all about this is my year, this is the year of not giving up, the year of this and this. And for some people, they can of course confess that. It didn't really, yeah, there is it didn't really get to work, but nevertheless, let's just not focus on that. Let me know how your day is faring on, and remember, you are tuning to Black Hot Fire Network, which is a media for the 21st century, that is on Black Hot Fire Network. And of course, even before I get to welcome everyone who is listening, everyone who is watching out there, we really get to appreciate the effort that you are putting, that is to support the network. And of course, feel free to interact with us. A very big shout out to you. Let us know how you are feeling today. Let us know how your day is really turning out, because it's all about positivity. If you are experiencing some negativity, still press on, because it is on a Monday, and we all know that at times the Mondays, they do come, of course, with their own plates. That is how we get to say in Swahili. But nevertheless, I hope that you are, I hope that you are looking rather to a positive side. Karibuni sana. This is the Calmie African Diary Show, only on a Black Hot Fire Network. And of course, let's take a moment before we get to start the show. Yes, Karibuni Sana, that is just a little bit of what you get to expect. That is when you get to log into Black Hot Fire Network. We get, of course, we get to cover for you everything that is happening in Africa, everything that is trending in Africa. And that is why we really get to appreciate Kate Newsom for providing this platform, because every day is a learning, of course, opportunity for us. And even before I get to continue with the show, I'd like to, of course, to pay a very big, of course, there is a salute to one Peter Tosh. Of course, he is to all those to the reggae fanatics. Actually, to the reggae fanatics, I believe if Samuel is tuned in, you can get to, of course, appreciate this guy. At Peter Tosh today, it is his birthday, I believe. Of course, today it is his birthday. Is it today? Okay, he was born on the month of October, and we get to hail him because Peter Tosh has worked hand in hand with the likes of Bob Marley. Of course, that is the late Bob Marley, and of course, he had also worked with the likes of Bunny Wailer. Remember, some time back, we were just appreciating the life of Bunny Wailer. That is the late Bunny Wailer, and of course, Peter Tosh is still alive, but we really get to appreciate his work, or rather his role on the Jamaican reggae music, because he had, of course, worked alongside the likes of Bob Marley, the likes of Bunny Wailer, and he was also the core members, that is, of the band Wailers. And there was a time he did get he did get, of course, to leave the Wailers, and it is believed that this is because we did have, of course, an island record president, that is by the name Chris Blackwell. He had refused to issue his solo album, that is in the year 1974. That is why Tosh and, of course, and the Bunny Wailer did get, of course, to leave. That is the reggae, did get, of course, to leave the Wailers industry. But later on, of course, he went ahead and established himself as a successful solo artist, and of course, a promoter to the Rastafari. That is of course, to the family. Of course, he is dead. Sorry, I was earlier on confused. We're just, of course, hailing him. This is his birthday month. That is at Peter Tosh. Rest in peace to him, Peter Tosh. Of course, that is Bob Marley, at Bunny Wailer. But I believe, of course, they all, of course, that is, I'm talking about Baniwela. Baniwela is the one who died, that is, I believe, recently. But they have, of course, set a huge record in the reggae industry. So, of course, we are paying tribute to them, and rest in peace to them, and of course to their families. I believe they are coping up well. Still, remember, you are tuning to the Calmie African Diary Show only on a Black Hot Fire Network. And today it's all about that is updates on what is happening in Africa. But even apart from that, we also have, of course, the topic of the day, that is in regards to karma colonialism. Let me know your views regarding that, your views regarding karma colonialism. In that, karma colonialism is all about the situation that most African countries are into right now. That is, in that we get to, receive funds, or we get to, of course, to receive donations from different European nations. But the agenda, that they have towards us is not as to what many people see. And this, most of the time, actually, the slogan is God, gold, and I can't recall the third one, but it is a God and gold, and of course, maybe staying, as rich as possible, as relevant as possible. That is the topic of the day. Let me know your views regarding that. But let me just update you on what is happening in Africa, before we even venture into the topic of the day. What is happening in Africa is that Seychelles, of course, they did, of course, they were having, of course, their presidential election. Sorry about that. Their presidential election, and for once since the year 1977, if I've got that correct, the opposition candidate has, of course, won the election in Seychelles. Congratulations to them. But what we just keep on saying is that because this is the first time that they have won the election since 1977, I believe, the duration of that, it is high time they get to deliver to the people. Let it just not be put on the map that the opposition candidate did get to win, but what are they giving the people? What are they, of course, giving the people in return? Because right now the people are that is aspiring for a better, for a better day. The people are aspiring, that is, for good economic times and so on. And moving on from that, that is in Seychelles, we also do have Alpha Conde has been re-elected. But we have been talking about the situation. We have actually been talking about the situation in Africa, in that these leaders, they really know what is happening. They really know the electoral, of course, system. They really know who that is. At some point they have, elected some of these leaders. That is, they have elected some of the electoral body, to help them steal votes. This is not new. In Guinea, we've experienced such things. In Kenya, we have also experienced such things. But we're just hoping that change should be forthcoming, because the opposition is crying foul, and the Alpha Conde is ready to even take it to court. But let me tell you, what happens is that this case will be delayed, or there will be lack of evidence, and we all know how it's gonna go down, in that Alpha Conde will still remain to be injustice. But nevertheless, it is, of course, a tough year for most African countries. We've seen places like Guinea, there was some post-election violence in places like Kenya right now, but we do have we are looking forward to 2022 for the election that is to take place. But so far, we're still seeing that people are getting themselves killed, especially the youths. But I believe, as a youth, that is why I keep telling myself that I don't think I'm going to vote. Of course, it is a criminal offense in Kenya if you don't get to vote. It is a criminal offense. But I don't get to vote because I'm not voting for a change. There's no change that is forthcoming, because they keep telling us that your vote counts. You wake up early in the morning, you queue for long hours, risking your health and so on, because it's in the wee hours of the morning. At times the weather is bad, and you only come to realize that the leader who has, of course, bribed his way out is going to lead in the elections. And that is why I've been saying that I'm never really looking forward to going to vote out there. That is actually my talk on that. But not that I'm telling people not to vote. Of course, I'm telling people that they should, if they are voting, they should vote for a better change. But personally, I'm done with voting, because there isn't no change. There isn't, the free and fair election that we have been promised for quite a long time. And that is why I am the anti-voting, of course, part. But right now, It is a great moment for different African countries, as many of them, they are looking forward for a change in their country. But nevertheless, we are taking, of course, a short musical break. Remember, you are tuning to Black Hot Fire Network. That is a media for the 21st century. And of course, today it is all about the situation with karma colonialism in Africa. Let me know your views, of course, about that. That is what we will be talking about. The situation in that the countries that are donating to Africa, they are, of course, the ones that is benefiting. But the countries that are receiving that aid are not actually benefiting. Instead, they are going for a loss. That is the topic for the day. Let me know, of course, your views regarding that. Of course, we are taking a short musical break as we get to jump to the one and only that is at Pato ranking all the way from Nigeria. That is all the way from Nigeria. Let's get, of course, to enjoy some little bit of music before we get back and see the situation that is in Africa. Of course, not only Africa, but different, of course, countries. Let me use the term poor in quotes, poor countries. That is countries which are not stable, but they are not stable because not because that they do not have the resources, but they are not stable because their resources, they're of course benefiting different European countries. That is the topic for the day. And of course, we are coming back right after this short musical break. Abule by the one and only Pato King. All right, let me get this just for you. All right, there we go.
This is another Tolio from my heart. Make I tell you waking up for a bullet. Oh, this big party inside my bullet. I went there with my best friend Kule. Kule they there with his girlfriend Shile. Ghetto girls and they like Takasufi. So many pretty girls they inside my mule. I just the one that say please come party. Everything yamba, everything there. Oh shit, I get many girls with them, they come from away. AJ boys and they like to do it. Almost single day. We just having fun. We won't carry on. Crazy just like make this stallion. But my girlfriend they here, they turn me on. That's why I hold on tight. Hold on, yeah, yeah. Hold on tight. Hold on, yeah, yeah. That's why I hold on tight. Hold on, yeah, yeah. Hold on tight. Hold on, yeah, yeah. From a good meta, all the way to Niger Delta. Now we get down, plenty ololo. Girl, them not for ogologo. I just want sharply take one photo before the papa them tell us to go. Oh shit, I get many girls with them, they come from away. AJ boys and they like to do almost see go babe. We just having fun. We won't carry on. That's why I hold on tight. Hold on, yeah, yeah. Hold on tight. Hold on, yeah, yeah.
Welcome to the Calmie African Diary Show on Black Hot Fire Network. I do believe that everyone is doing okay. And of course, the topic of the day is all about karma, colonialism in Africa. And trust me, this is it has, of course, to deal with the situation that most African countries have found themselves in. And that's why I've said that to shoot that question up. Let me know your views and sentiments regarding this topic of the day. And just to elaborate a little bit on what this is all about, that is the topic that is all about. Let's take a look at on this karma colonialism like this. It's all about it's of course it's all about a relationship between an indigenous, that is in brackets forcibly imported majority, and a minority of foreign invaders, and the fundamental decisions affecting the lives of the colonized people are made and implemented by the colonial rulers in pursuit of interests that are often defined in distant metropolis. That's just a short definition, but let me just focus on this. On most situations, different African countries, for example, right now, in Kenya, we cannot even if we start paying debts, even if the tax on major commodities, that is a major, of course, commodities that are consumed on a daily basis, you'll got to realize that as much as the taxes will be hiked, we are never going to be able to pay these debts. And some of these leaders, of course, they do take these debts because they know that in the years to come, they wouldn't be in power. They wouldn't be the ones paying that debt. Instead, the debt will be imposed on the people. So that is why we keep saying that the issue with colonialism is still, of course, amidst ourselves. And this has highly been contributed by our leaders. And just to focus, or rather just to elaborate more on that, is that these leaders, they have taken loans, they have, of course, signed some treaties, some of course signed some treaties with a different colonizer, that is I'm talking about different Europeans from different, that is European states. And some of these leaders, some of them, let me just use the word naive in quotes, because they do not know what they're getting themselves into. But for a majority, they know what they're getting themselves into. And like I've told you, some of them, they're not the ones who are going to pay that debt at the end of the day. And that is where they are, of course, the turn in between, making that a crucial decision for themselves or for their families or for their country. And that is where we are focusing on some of the key characteristics of a foreign aid today. Because, for example, Kenya, we are indebted to China, Japan, I believe the USA. I can't even start talking about Zimbabwe. I can't even start talking about, different African countries. And we have been talking about the issue with, colonization. We have been talking about the issue with standing for ourselves, doing our own things. Just take a look the other day in Zimbabwe. They had tried to come up about the Zimbabwean dollar. But if you take a look at the amount of a debt that Zimbabwe owes, of course, different European nations, you'll be like, they're really not going anywhere. And that is why we even did have the Zimbabwean dollar sinking. It didn't even maintain in the market, and they're back to the dollar. That is also part of karma colonialism. That is karma colonialism that is amongst ourselves. And just to continue on that, there is this situation whereby decisions are just made by people who know remarkably little about the country they are ruling. For example, in Kenya, let me just use this example in Kenya. It is believed that the first family, of course, is still ruling till now. We do have, of course, a very own president. And the assumption on the street is that when something goes negative, actually, the assumption on the street is that when something goes negative, they wouldn't blame the president, but rather they'll blame let me use the term, the hustlers nation. They're like, he didn't do this by himself, or someone, someone, of course, propelled him to do that. That is the word on the street. But of course, shock unto us when we come to realize that some of these things, that is some of the situation that we've found, or rather that we put ourselves into, our leaders, they know, irrespective of them coming from a rich background. We shouldn't be blaming that anything that turns chaotic, it's for those politicians who have come from a humble background. No, that is actually how it is in the country right now. If something happens indirectly, they'll be like, this is done by the hustlers a nation, which is crazy. But just to continue on that, some of these politicians, just to emphasize on my point, is that They do not understand the history, culture, and government of the countries affected. And of course, even in terms of the long-term stake in their future. And that is why I'm wondering, give Kenya like 10 years from now, we will be highly indebted. The debts that the former presidents, I'm talking about the later that is Daniel Latoro, teacher of Moi, put us through, we haven't finished paying. And I cannot even comment on the amount of debts that our current leaders have put us into. Talk about even right to talk about the new budget that is right. The country is actually. I can tell that this Monday is sort of cold. There's that type of atmosphere out there that that speaks like people are just a sort of mad. People are just sort of. And bothered with everything, because right now in the country we do have the BBI, which is set to take place. That is the Building Bridges Initiative, which is supposed to take place today, and this is going to favor only the rich, but the poor are not involved into that, because this is going to benefit them in terms of their families, in terms of the money that is in terms of their salaries and so on. It is going to benefit them, and that is why I can say that this Monday seems awkwardly, a sad Monday. But just to continue on that, the issue with karma colonialism is highly affecting many African countries, and I've just given you an example that the situation that some of these leaders, they go ahead, sign treaties that they do not even know the repercussions, or at some time the repercussions of this treaty is not highlighted. That is why we get ourselves messed up, and that is why we are giving tenders, to different European countries to come to our country and deal with projects that students, parents have highly struggled, to pay school fees for different courses. And we are now giving different European countries, sorry about that, we are now giving, of course, different European countries to come and deal with these projects as a one way of telling them that, we really get to appreciate them, as one way of reducing the debts that we owe them, which I feel it's so incorrect. I can only imagine that our forefathers were not able to pay the debts. We, the new generation, we are not able to pay the debts. Our children's children will not be able to pay the debts. And that's why they say that on most of the times these of course are funds, or rather donations that are given to Africa, it's not about money. At some point money is given, but what they get in return is gold, is of course our natural product. It is of course what puts a country on the map. I'm talking about the heritage of different African countries. And let me just continue on the aspect of karma colonialism, is that the colonizers, they see the colony as a place for them to work their will. Because, on most of the time it's about power and money. And when you give an African leader money or power, it is easier to manipulate them. And that is why we are still, that's why you're wondering as to why Alpha Conde is still being re-elected, mysteriously re-elected, even as much as the people are tired of his leadership. Alpha Conde is still being re-elected. You are wondering as to why some leaders are living, life, on a golden spoon. But this is because they're being funded. This is because their children's children are not going to lack anything at the expense of the will of the people. And just to continue on that is some of the characteristics of a karma colonialism, is that the colonial powers are whiter. That is definitely correct. I must admit that all these European nations that are standing, all these European nations that we are looking up to, that we are looking up to as, superior and so on, that they are advanced, they have a better technology, they have a better weapons, they have, everything is just a dope in their country. It is at the expense of Africa. Take a look at the strongest metal on earth. It is found in Africa. I'm talking about uranium. And some of these leaders, They'll just give it away, not knowing that that is one thing that is putting different African countries on the map. That is one thing that is making us as Africa unique. Karma colonialism, is going to worsen day by day. Take a look at different US aid funds that have dominated different African countries in the pretext of helping the poor. They send photographers, for example, they send photographers into Africa to get an image on how Africa is like. Why not, if you are working on a project to help Africa, why not use local photographers? Why not use local photographers? Because I believe local photographers, they do have a story to tell. They know the different angles of a story. But if you send a photographer outside, of course, Africa itself, because you want information from Africa, that you get to work with your own. You get to work with the photographers because it's easy to manipulate the details. A photographer comes, takes images of people on the streets, goes to the slums, takes images there. And of course, these European nations be like, I think Africa needs maybe for the women, that is for the ladies, I think they need sanitary towels. I think they need a toothbrush, that is toothbrushes. I think they need, clothes and so on. They get to fund it to Africa. But they don't get to fund it out of a goodwill, out of a pity. No. They fund it because the government will get something in return. The donors are the ones benefiting. And I don't understand as to why till now different African leaders are not saying this. But of course, they cannot say because it is them and the generation that are benefiting. And there's this also a situation of benefits a flow to the ruling country. For example, money, of course, is the obvious benefit. Take a look at, there's this guy that speaks, of course, the son of the Equatorial Guinea president, that is at Teddy. Teddy is living the life, and he's not even ashamed to show people that is of Equatorial Guinea that even if you go ahead and freeze my accounts, I don't care. I'll go out there, buy that Lamborghini. I'll go out there, live that, of course, extravagant life at the expense of the people, which is definitely crazy. At a kid, let me just take a look at you. At a kid, yes, I was just, I'm on and off with the camera because it's quite blurry. But you've said, good morning, Calmie. Is something wrong with the camera? Yes, it's a little bit blurry. That's why I've been adjusting it. But I believe you are doing okay. I'm just highlighting on the situation in Equatorial Guinea, that is to deal with the issue with the karma colonialism in Africa. That Teddy can go on a cruise, an island, perhaps by himself alone, and maybe whomever he wants to interact with. This is one guy who was even trying, to marry, or rather, date this, social life. That is, I'm talking about this episode of Real Housewives, of course, Real something of Atlanta. Of course, it's it is of course a reality TV show. This is one guy that has ensured that he is living the each life at the expense of people, and that is why we're talking about that is not neo-colonialism. That is why we are talking about the issue with karma colonialism in Africa. In that, his father has been in power for over 40 years, if I'm not wrong. And just to understand that is that they'll put in a leader whom they can easily manipulate. Like I've told you, the issue with the US aid funds in Africa. We do have a lot of these funds gracing our streets. We do have a lot of these funds, of course, in different politicians' office, and only a few people get to benefit that. And some of these products are even sold to the streets. And that's why I keep talking about the situation that colonial. I'm just trying to get this correct. Colonialism isn't, of course, abolished in Africa. It is still in Africa. And that's why we are focusing on the situation with. That's of course we are focusing with the issue that is the situation with karma colonialism in, of course, Africa. Take a look at some of the schools they have built. Take a look at some of the hospitals they have built. To the eyes of different people, they'll be like, oh, the whites are really doing a lot for the people. The whites are really doing, they are, of course, for the goodwill. But you only get to understand that some of this relief money will go to farms, of course, located inside this USAID. I'm talking about the health, of course. I'm talking about the health organizations in different European countries. But of course, the USAID is very rampant in that they go pick even kids from the slums, they in the pretext of teaching them and so on. But only for you to end up, be done with school. And of course, you're now forced to be, of course, you're not forced, of course, to run their own different that is manifestos in Africa. Take a look at some. I've seen some different celebrities who have been picked from the slums. They have been taken to school, and of course, in the pretext of giving back to the society, you get to see that they keep on spreading the gospel. In short, the gospel, that is in quotes, the gospel of God, gold, and glory. This is to the white man. And of course, let me just, of course, I get to share some video here in regards. Of course, let me get to share some video here in regards. That is in regards to, of course, the situation in Nigeria, in that Britain bought Nigeria. This is not the first country that is being bought. You'll be shocked that even you're different. That is the African country you've been calling home and so on, has been bought long time ago. And I said, Kit, you said Calmie. They were put into power by the Europeans. Absolutely. Calmie, share this video that I sent to Specs. Perhaps I'll get to ask Specs, of course, to share with me that video. But I remember the show for the day, or rather the topic for the day, is the issue with karma colonialism in Africa. As I get, of course, to search for the video that Keith is talking about, such that I can get, of course, to play that right here on the, that is not on the Express show, on the Calmie African Diary show. But before that, let me just get to share this video. That is the situation in Nigeria, in that you end up being indebted to them, but their leaders. Take a look at the situation in Nigeria right now, how it is. This is Nigeria.
In the early 1800s, the city known today as Lagos in modern-day Nigeria was one of the major ports for the export of West African slaves to North and South America. Now, while British traders had once been major players in the slave trade, mounting pressure from missionary groups and a spike in demand for palm oil as a machine lubricant following the Industrial Revolution meant that the British government would now begin battling other European powers to bring an end to the slave trade and gain monopoly access to the region's palm oil and other industrial raw materials. Prior to this change in policy, the slave trade had been sustained by a triangular system of exchange that had lasted for over 300 years. African slaves were captured and sold by local kings, chiefs, and military generals to European traders who would then transport them to the Americas and the Caribbean islands to work in plantations producing materials like sugar and cotton. These products would then be shipped over to European factories, where they would be made into finished goods like clothing, rum, and brandy that would then be shipped over to Africa, along with other items such as guns, clocks, and leather goods to be exchanged for more slaves. Breaking the established order, the new British strategy will now be firmly focused on keeping African labor within its shores, as the continuing demand for slaves on the West African coastline was causing a serious labor shortage on the mainland, which was hampering its agricultural productivity. The trade had also made the region generally more dangerous and unstable, as long-standing tribal wars that had been going on years before the arrival of Europeans were now even more bloody, thanks to the introduction of guns and cannons acquired from European traders. Many local kings and chiefs were also now seeking to subdue neighboring tribes and expand their territories, so the cities and villages surrounding the coastlines were continually being raided by gun-loading militias looking to capture and sell slaves on the coasts in exchange for more weapons. If the British government was to ensure safe and efficient access to the region's resources, the slave trade-fueled violence and instability would need to be brought to an end. Britain got to work by passing anti-slavery laws and also establishing an anti-slavery navy squadron which began intercepting slave ships in the region and returning the captives to shore. However, the slave trade showed no sign of slowing down, as it was simply too profitable for the local rulers and the mainly Portuguese slave traders that now dominated the market. Britain needed a more permanent solution, and luckily for them, a long-standing rivalry between two Yoruba kings would present them with the perfect opportunity. In the 1840s, Oba Akitoye and Oba Kosoko were involved in a bitter rivalry for the throne of Lagos. Oba Akitoye had been crowned King of Lagos in 1841, but his rival, Oba Kosoko, believed that he should have been crowned king based on a true reading of the Lagos king-making traditions. In 1845, Kosoko forcefully removed Akitoye from the throne and crowned himself king, forcing Akitoye and his supporters into exile. Although he previously had no moral objections to slavery, Akitoye contacted the British government and promised to sign a treaty banning the slave trade in Lagos and granting British missionaries and merchants exclusive access to the region, provided the British Army would help him regain the throne. Following a battle referred to by locals as Ogun Agidengbi, which can be roughly translated as the Bowling Battle, the British Royal Navy inflicted a heavy defeat on Oba Kosoko and his army of over 5,000 men and reinstalled Akitoye as the king of Lagos. As agreed, Akitoye passed a law banning slavery in Lagos and granted the British government and its citizens significant privileges and influence in the region. The rest, as they say, is history. Oba Akitoye died 2 years later, and his son Oba Dosumu was forced to sign a treaty turning Lagos into a British colony just 7 years after his father's death. With slavery abolished and Lagos now a full British colony, Portuguese influence in the region dissipated and Lagos became a commercial hub for the export of palm oil and other raw materials sourced from the surrounding regions. Following the infamous Berlin Conference of 1884, the map of modern Nigeria was outlined for further exploration and conquest, and Sir George Tolman Goldie's Royal Niger Company was authorized to secure the territory. Recruiting and enlisting many local militias to its cause, the Royal Niger Company embarked on a campaign to conquer the territory, and within just over a decade, it had forcefully secured over 400 treaties from various local rulers, pledging their allegiance and granting full legislative and judicial authority to the company. After having established itself as the de facto government of a region encompassing over 250 ethnic groups and over 400 languages, the Royal Niger Company officially transferred control of Nigeria to the British government on the 1st of January 1900, receiving £865,000 as compensation. Just as a side note, the Royal Niger Company still exists today as part of Unilever plc, the company behind popular brands like Ben & Jerry's, Lipton, Dove, and Vaseline. Recognizing the vast differences between the people in the region, the British initially divided the new territory into a southern Nigerian protectorate, which had become majority Christian, and a northern Nigerian protectorate, which had remained majority Muslim. However, while southern Nigeria was very productive and ran at a budget surplus due to its abundant natural resources and its people's embrace of education and commerce, the north was a largely loss-making enterprise that cost the British more to administer than they gained in the trade of its raw materials. It has been suggested that the financial woes of the Northern Protectorate was due to a combination of its relatively fewer natural resources and the strong Islamic culture in the region, which was very resistant to secular education. Needing an urgent solution to the Northern Nigerian budget deficit, British High Commissioner Frederick Lugard decided that it would be a great idea to join the two vastly different regions together into one united political entity. And to the dismay of many protesting southern Nigerians, the two protectorates were amalgamated in 1914 to form a single British colony of Nigeria, which would ultimately become the Federal Republic of Nigeria we know today. As another side note, many scholars believe that it was Lugard's wife, Flora Shaw, who named the country Nigeria after the river Niger that runs across the territory. So in more ways than one, Nigeria was never a very Nigerian idea to begin with. Rather than being some kind of mythical homeland of the Nigerian people, a more accurate description, based solely on its origin story, would be to describe it as a corporate entity that was formed to ensure the profitable exploitation of the natural resources in the geographical areas that surround the Niger River. And nearly 60 years after gaining independence from British rule in 1960, my country Nigeria still seems to conform to the original purpose for which it was formed. The only difference now is that rather than lining the pockets of the shareholders of the Royal Niger Company, its resources now line the pockets of the Nigerian elite. Having discovered over 37 billion barrels of oil reserves under its soil, modern-day Nigeria may have ditched palm oil for the more profitable crude oil, but the status quo remains very much the same. The only Nigerians that seem to benefit from the country's natural wealth are the elites that own oil wells and the government officials tasked with managing the resource. Despite a failing education system, poor infrastructure, insecurity, and mass unemployment, Nigerian politicians are arguably some of the best paid politicians in the world. A recent report by Nigerian news station Channels TV estimated that Nigerian senators earn as much as $80,000 a month in wages and allowances, meaning that they are paid over 10,000 times more than the Nigerian minimum wage and over 200 times more than its GDP per capita. All this in a country where nearly 87 million people live on less than $1 a day. Indeed, life for the average Nigerian has become so hard that the goal for many is to live anywhere else but Nigeria. To draw a shocking comparison, while an estimated 10.5 million African slaves were involuntarily taken out of Africa over the 300 years of the transatlantic slave trade, some estimates suggest that the number of Nigerians voluntarily living outside of Nigeria has grown to over 15 million since its independence in 1960. From popular destinations like the US, UK, and Canada to places like Russia, Ukraine, and Malaysia, Nigerians are choosing to endure all kinds of prejudice, climates, and harsh treatments just to make a better life for themselves and their families. Just like the Royal Niger Company and its pre-independence colonial administrators ran Nigeria primarily for the benefit of themselves and the British Empire, in many ways, the current generation of Nigerian elites do exactly the same, but perhaps to a much more extreme degree, as they now work not just for the benefit of Britain, but for the rest of the Western world as well. How exactly, you might ask? Well, first and foremost,
Good grammar and spelling are
Sorry about that.
but if you want to write essays that inspire,
by looting and sending billions and billions of dollars worth of oil revenues that should be kept and reinvested into the local economy to European banks to just sit and accumulate interest. By stimulating the London property market with their endless acquisitions of rows and rows of expensive London properties. By paying eye-watering amounts in tuition fees for their children to study abroad while their local institutions rot away. And by championing European industry and exports with their insatiable appetite for imported luxury cars, clothing, and perishable goods. So while they might hold Nigerian passports and outwardly claim to be proud Nigerians, their actions show that they do not feel any true sense of solidarity with their fellow Nigerians. And oddly enough, their way of thinking is actually not that surprising when you understand where they're coming from. You see, it's very hard to feel any real sense of duty to a country that you have no real attachment to. Raised by parents and grandparents who saw nothing in common with the hundreds of neighboring tribes that were involuntarily bound together in the artificially constructed profit-making machine called Nigeria, the current generation of Nigerian elites were never going to suddenly put down their ethnic prejudices and embrace a bright vision of one Nigeria simply because it now had a new flag, a new anthem, and a new team of black administrators. One question that is often asked is why nearly 60 years after gaining independence, the Nigerian elite have not simply opted to undo the colonial structures and divide the country along its pre-colonial ethnic lines. This is a very complicated question, but the simple answer is that a breakup of Nigeria would cause a lot of wealthy and powerful people to lose a lot of wealth and power. And the millions of lives that were lost during the 1967 to 1970 Biafran War show just how far those who benefit from Nigeria's existence would be willing to go to keep Nigeria going. But here's the thing, regardless of how it came to be, or why it still exists in its original colonial form, the reality is that the hopes and dreams of over 200 million people now depend on the success or failure of Nigeria. And moreover, there is now an ever-growing number of young people for whom Nigeria is their mythical homeland. Unlike their parents and grandparents, they really do see themselves as Nigerians as opposed to Igbo, Yoruba, or Hausa. They speak Nigerian English as the first and in some cases only language. They hardly understand nor revere the historic traditions of their parents and instead identify more closely with the emerging contemporary Nigerian culture. A culture that is being built around the growing music, fashion, and movie industry, an ever-evolving shared language, and a shared struggle to succeed in the midst of adversity. For these Nigerians, Nigeria is far from just a money-making venture.
Whoa, there is a lot of information to process regarding Nigeria. There is a lot of information to process regarding Nigeria. Welcome back to the Calmie Africana Diary Show. Takita was trying to look for the video earlier. That's why you couldn't. See that is the current video playing. I just can't get it. But you've said. Let me read this. I sent the video to Spike's Calmie. It shows the wickedness of the Nigerian political class. This can also be highly seen in this video that I played. In that there is the political class in Nigeria will continue, it will continue to thrive at the expense, of course, of the millions of Nigerians. And if I could get that video, but I'm sorry, Kate, I just can't get it. And you said you have a share screen, Calmie. You can't. Okay, that was in regards to earlier on. I was trying to look for the video, that's why you couldn't see me. But I hate for this situation that right now, as much as even there has been the awareness of NSAS, trust me, some people are not being affected. I'm talking about the politicians, and it is quite disturbing as well. Now I really understand. Now, actually, from the video, I'm just done. I'm just done, looking down upon them, because I'm like, oh, Nigerians are everywhere, they're hustling everywhere. But I really get to understand the fact that their country doesn't provide the conducive environment for them to work. The country, or rather the politicians that they have elected to power, they do not, they're not working for the youths. Rather, they're just competing on how to continue staying relevant, on how to continue, that is, staying relevant in terms of richness at the expense of the poor, which is quite crazy. Now I understand as to why Nigerians are just all over all over the world trying to put food on the table. Remember, family, we are discussing on the situation that is on karma colonialism in Africa, and Nigeria is a good example in terms of the issue with aid. Not that Nigeria hasn't been receiving aid from different European nations. The issue with the leaders. Take a look at Buhari. Buhari is just sleeping. He's just sleeping there. He isn't doing his work. It's all about competition. It's all about tourism. Driving the Porsche cars. It's all about who is having the most, palatial homes and so on. That is the same situation in Kenya right now. We right now in Kenya, we are having a situation with the BBI, that is the Building a Bridges Initiative, which I've told you it is of course more like a new constitution that is set to be changed in terms of course in terms of the politicians, in terms of the increasement of the cabinet and so on, and it's going to benefit just the rich. And just to add up on that, right now politicians actually are on this game. Of course, forget about their Porsche cars and houses and so on. Right now, politicians are competing on who is filling the stadiums with youths. Like, it's all about the youths are actually the ball, in that they're tossed to this side. The next day they're tossed to this side. It's all about which youth is. It's all about which politician is putting many youth. That is filling the stadiums with many youths. And we all know when youths are being filled into one place, that is in terms of political campaigns, money is exchanged there. They go ahead spreading the wrong propaganda. We are not going forward if this is continuing, and it's a very sad situation in Nigeria. And I see at Keith is saying that exactly they are becoming Nigerians and are putting down tribalism. And you say, I've actually asked Spikes to put it on. He was actually trying to look for the video. It was actually trying to look for the video, and it said, I told you, Calmie, it is a theft dome, and Buhari is too busy looking at Kid, you're making my day. But it's very sad that different African countries are actually bought, sadly enough. We are out here risking our lives, crying for a better Africa, crying for a better day. But they're out there like this common, to them, we're just commoners. This commoner needs maybe to be killed to end the voice, that is to end the spreading awareness to the people. But sadly enough, this is what it is in different African countries. The leaders we keep electing, politics is all about poker. Politics is all about who has the highest bid, actually, in terms of the European nations that are supporting them. And that is why today we are focusing on the situation with karma colonialism, in that different aids are reaching Africa, but they have, of course, their own purpose. They do have their own leaders, and as a result, you get to see that different African products are being embezzled out of Africa. Some, of course, they're being paid in terms of some, of course, are being paid in terms of this debt, but a majority of this, they are just paid in terms of other illegal business. For example, take a look at some of the money that was stolen back then. I'm trying to recall the name of this Nigerian, of course. He was a military. He was a president. Just trying to recall. Anyway, I'm just talking about $300 and something plus million stolen from an African country. Take a look at the situation in hospitals, schools, hygiene, and that is hygiene and sanitization in Nigeria. It's crazy. Not only Nigeria, different African countries. Actually, today on my way to work, that is the car that I had boarded. We did have a little bit of a situation with the police, and it just occurred that we had, of course, to use a different route. That is there's this place in Kenya which is called the Madari slums, and trust me, people are out there trying to hustle. If you take a look at what the hustlers are really trying to put food on the table, it's really touching. They're out there, it's raining, it's drizzling. They're out there, of course, we call them kibandas. You know, kibandas are just shanty places. They're just wearing, they are just, of course, showcasing out their goods, hoping for a better day. But our own politicians will come out the next day, give money to a few youths in that area because it is a slum dwelling area. Give money to a few youths there. These youths will go out there, cause chaos. The politician will still be back in power. Or take a look at when COVID-19, of course, came. That is when it did, of course, came to Kenya. We did have different politicians giving out aid in terms of cooking oil, cooking flour, different packages that is to help people sustain themselves. And their target area was the slums because they know that people in the slums, they are really struggling to get these commodities, and they know that the same people in the slums, they will easily lure them into, they'll easily, of course, lure them into messing up the country. And that is why during most post-election violence, you see that the youth from different slum areas, of course, not only them, also youths in different areas, but you get to see that mostly in the slum areas is whereby they get a lot of people to cause chaos. They're being used for the wrong cause, and these same leaders, they're out there building houses by the beach, going to these posh countries, traveling. And when it will be near, that is the political time, that is the campaign period, you'll see them again coming back, begging us for their votes. That is to put them back in power. But I'm just hoping that right now different African nations should be on the rise, the youth, because the future of different nations is in the hands of the youth. And if these youths don't gang up and say enough is enough, because personally, I am a youth, and not that I'm telling people not to vote, but I am not voting anymore. I've never voted. Actually, the first time I received my national ID, I was all ahead of my heels. I'm like, I want to vote. But when I came to realize that all this is just of course it's just a showcase, because they'll make you vote, line up and so on, only for you to realize that whomever wants to have that power, that is by default, they'll still get back to power. And I see at Keith said Britain still owns Nigeria and Kenya. That is absolutely correct. I can tell you by the number of projects that are out here. Take a look at Zimbabwe, take a look at Zambia. Different, not only even Britain, China, Japan, but I was coming, I saw some, there's a Chinese news agency in Nairobi. And I'm wondering, what is this Chinese agency, of course, that is doing in Nairobi? Which information do they have to wear about Africa? Of course, this information will either be malicious. Also on my way to work, where we are situated, actually there is a lot of Chinese that is casinos, Chinese premises out here, trying to lure Kenyans, into wasting their money into gambling and so on, which is quite crazy. But it is a sad situation that as much as we have been fighting colonialism, as much as we have been fighting the situation with independence, till now we do not have that independence. And this is because we keep giving our leaders the go ahead. We keep giving our leaders that opportunity to continue being bold. We keep giving our leaders that opportunity to continue enriching themselves and their family. And that is why as Africa, we are not going anywhere forward. The situation in Nigeria, only the youths can attest to that. Only the youths can feel the pinch. But the rich, I'm talking about the oil barons. Right now, we even have drug barons, trust me, running the country. That is the mafia, the syndicates and so on, running the countries, different African countries. And we all know who backs them up. European nations, because the European nations, they are the biggest donors to different African countries. They come in pretext of building schools, building roads, that is for charity, and different, of course, in quotes, charity that is a project they can come up with. But we are not seeing the bigger picture here, is that they'll still continue standing and remaining the strongest Africa, that is the strongest European, sorry. They'll still continue standing as the strongest European at the expense of us. But nevertheless, I really get to appreciate everyone. We are, of course, almost coming to the end of the show. And ask Kate if I'll get that video, because we're trying to look it up, but we just can't get it right now. But we'll get that video. We'll get to play it later on. But I really want to appreciate everyone who has been listening, who has been also watching and tuning to the Calmie African Diary Show on Blackout Fire Network. Remember, you are tuning to Blackout Fire Network, which is a media for the 21st century. And we are coming to the end of the show, because we do have the express show, of course, coming right a few minutes from now. I really get to appreciate you, and also at Kate Newsom for providing this platform. I really get to appreciate you. But my parting shot is that we need to stay woke. It is now or never, because the more we keep postponing, because procrastination is a disease. The more we keep postponing, the more we are, of course, we will continue staying on that. That is, we'll continue staying at the low. That is, at the low of the food chain, instead of maintaining. That is, instead of being on the high. But nevertheless, I really appreciate everyone, and thank you so much at Kate Newsom for providing this platform. We are, of course, coming to the end of the show, and I really want to ask you one more time. You can get to log in at www.blackoutfire network. You can take a look at some of the various episodes you might have missed in regards to the shows. We do have the African Today show, we do have the Swahili classes, we do have the 54 correspondent show, we do also have the Calmie African Diary show, the Voices of the Motherland show. These are just all educative shows that you can get to learn, and it is about matters that, of course, matters that get of course, to deal with issues that are affecting us here in Africa. But nevertheless, do have an amazing day, and of course, we'll get to interact on the expression just a few minutes from now. Do have a great day.
I never see a shadow. I never go like a shadow. She say, why am I acting like a gangster? I say, I don't know why you see me with a shadow. She don't say, when you see me, say, I do put it in. I got money in my mind, got money in my mind. I do this every time, I do this every time. Say me at the day, too much giving, I too good giving. So much to play, I want to control patient. Every day I just see many people that say me, I never see a show. I never hold a show. She say, why am I acting like a gangster? I said, I don't know how you feel it, that's how. She said,